Hi guys, my name is Christine, and today I'm talking about manifesting the impossible. So, how to manifest the impossible. So, you can jump timelines today and start living that reality that you do want to live and start manifesting the things that you do want to manifest in this life. So, the process to doing this is actually very, very simple. The tricky part and the more tedious part is consistently living by this new paradigm shift every single day. So, in order to manifest the impossible, in order to create a new life, the life that you want, you have to live by a different frequency, and you have to live in that frequency. So, as Neville Goddard says in his book, The Feeling is the Secret, you have to live as if the wish has already been fulfilled. And you have to live from that new frequency. Now, that new frequency for you is probably some elevated emotion of some shape or form. Different emotions than what you're living currently. Okay? So if you start living in a new emotion, the emotion as if the wish has been fulfilled, then your world will start to become different. Okay, and you'll start to manifest the things that you want, and the things that you want will start to trickle in. So why does this happen then? How does that manifest the impossible? And it's actually very, very simple, okay? Because if you are living by a different frequency, as in you are living in a more elevated state, if you're more happier, if you're more joyful, if you're more excited, if you feel more abundant, if you feel happier in general, your actions and your behaviors will begin to become different. You'll start doing new things because you're living from a new, different kind of emotion, and therefore your life will change. Because you've changed how you feel inside. You've changed how you feel inside, and therefore you are behaving differently and you're acting differently. And therefore because you're happier, you're making better choices, and those choices are making results come. You're creating better results from being better. Okay? So it's all about living then in that frequency. But that is the key. That is the tricky bit. Okay? To live in that frequency consistently. That's the work. That's the hard part. The easy part is knowing. The easy part is knowing that, okay, yeah, in order to get what I want, I've got to change my energy. But can you stay like that? Can you stay in that elevated state? Can you feel better and feel good more of the time? Because if you think of all of like the teachings in the law of attraction, it doesn't matter if you're reading Neville Goddard's books, it doesn't matter if you're reading and watching the Secret documentary, it doesn't matter if you're following Joe Dispenza's work or anyone that is talking about manifesting, it all comes down to this. It all comes down to this. Feeling good. And I would add this word, okay? Because at the end of the documentary, The Secret, Rhonda Byrne sort of writes in, or Rhonda Byrne, is it Byrne or Byrne? Anyway, she writes in the sand, feel good, right? And then she sort of like flicks up that stick that she's holding. But the next word that I feel like she should have wrote in the sand is this. Consistently. Because that's how you change your life. Because if you're like, okay, I'm just going to feel good, and I'm going to feel good, and I'm going to feel these elevated emotions, and let's say you do that for an hour, and you're like, nothing's changed. My life is still the same. You're not living it consistently. And the only reason why you are pretending to feel good is because you're doing it because you're wanting a result. You're trying to create a result. Okay, whereas if you get into this new frame of mind where this new and higher frequency, this new and higher feeling good is the outcome. Okay, that's the main focus. Feel good for the sake of feeling good. Feel that higher frequency just because it would just feel better to live that way anyway. Don't just use the thought and the feeling and the frequency of feeling good to try and manifest something, because then you're not actually genuinely feeling that way. You're using it as a trick. You're using it as a manipulation. But if you feel good more frequently, and you feel it because you just for the genuine feelings of feeling better, then you'll start to manifest the things that you want. Now, how can you do this then? How can you feel good consistently? So I've got an exercise for you that I would really like you to do. So make sure you pay attention to this and make sure you do it, okay? Because knowledge is only power if you use it, okay? So knowledge really isn't power. Knowledge is potential power. If you don't use the knowledge, if you don't apply the knowledge, then you're just still the same, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to think of 3 situations. Three times in your day. A situation in the morning, a situation in the afternoon, a situation at night. Okay? And I want you to mentally rehearse before your day begins, or before you go into that new segment of your day currently, how you want to feel. How you want to be, and mentally rehearse how you're going to act, how you're going to feel in each of these situations. Or let's say you're watching me right now and it's the afternoon, then how are you going to feel for the rest of the day, so after you've watched this video and at night time. Okay? But preferably you want to do this in the morning so you can get all of your day right. But you want to do this every single day before you get up. Okay? Before you get up out of bed, make the intention, mentally rehearse how you want to be in the morning, how you want to be in the afternoon, and how you want to be at nighttime before you go to bed. How are you going to behave and feel differently? And do that before you even start your day. Write it down if you want to. Okay? Visualize it as well. Like mentally rehearse, write it down, do everything you can to try and figure out your day before it's even begun. And say to yourself that nothing in my environment is going to change my mood. Or if it does, I'm going to get myself back on track, okay? No matter what happens, I can make this day a good day, and I'm going to feel good, and I'm going to behave differently, and I'm going to be that ideal version of myself that I've always seen. Because most people know how they should be behaving. Most people know how they would like to be feeling. Most people have an idealization of themselves. And I'm sure that's the same for you. You have an ideal version of yourself that you want yourself to be. So the idea then is to stop being how you are now and to actually become that person that you really, really want to be. And you do that simply by mental rehearsal. So what you might want to do is, before you do this, put on some nice music, some nice calming music or inspirational music, whatever gets your gears going, and rehearse how you want to be during the day, how you want to feel. Rehearse how you want to be, rehearse how you want to feel. And that's how you can start to begin to change your frequency throughout the day. Just visualize it. Mental rehearse how you want to be, how you want to feel. So, one of the problems though is a lot of people, when they start applying this kind of knowledge and they start doing it, they go back to being their old selves. They go back to being the person that they once was. So, the next techniques that I have is something that you can do to unlock your subconscious mind, right? How you can get into the subconscious mind and change these old behaviors. Because the reason why you keep on getting drawn back to these old moods that are not helpful for you and these old behaviors that are not helpful for you, that's keeping you stuck in this present reality, okay, and not into the reality that you want to manifest, is because these emotions and these behaviors have been programmed into you via your subconscious mind, because you've been experiencing them for a long time. This is why if you feel like every day is like Groundhog Day and it's just a repeat of the day before, it's because you've been having the same thoughts and you've been doing the same behaviors the same time. So there's 2 ways that you can get into the subconscious mind, and Neville Goddard talks about this in his book, The Feeling is the Secret. and that is through sleep and prayer. And prayer is basically, the way Neville Goddard describes it, is just another form of meditation, okay? So you don't need to take the religious context with that word prayer, okay? So let's talk about these two things. Let's talk about sleep and meditation, okay? So the way that Neville Goddard describes sleep is this, is that when you're falling asleep, you are entering into the subconscious mind. Okay, that moment though when you're feeling drowsy and you start entering into that theta state where your body is like asleep and your mind is still awake, this is when your brain is very susceptible to messages, okay? So that's when you want to mentally rehearse how you want to be, how you want to feel. You want to conjure up those emotions inside of you, how it would feel as if the wish was fulfilled, okay? Because once you know the feeling, you can replicate it, and then you can replicate it throughout your day, okay? So if you can feel these emotions even just once, your body knows how to do it. And if your body knows how to do it and you can make it happen in your brain, then you can recreate it. You can recreate those elevated emotions. So, what's next then? Meditation or prayer. Okay, this is when you sort of have a moment during the day to yourself, whether that's half an hour, 15 minutes, and you just get into a very relaxed state as if you're about to meditate. And again, you go into that seat of the subconscious mind, because when you get a little bit drowsy and you really concentrate on the present moment and your brain waves basically start to slow down, because during our day, throughout most of it, where our brain is sort of like going all over the place, especially if you have anything like anxiety and those kinds of like mental health conditions. We're basically living in survival when we're in those emotions, and our brain waves are just like going all over the place. We're thinking about the next move, we're thinking about what we're going to do later, we're thinking about the past, we're thinking about all these different things, and it's almost like our brain is sort of scattered and it's in a massive mess. Whereas when you calm down and you get into a meditative state, into a trance, your brain waves slow down, and then you're going out of that sort of like beta sort of like mind frequency where your mind's scattered into a more relaxed feeling and into a more relaxed state. And when you get into this relaxed state, just like dropping off to sleep, you are now entering the subconscious mind, okay? And again, this is when your brain is more susceptible to messages, okay? So you can then reprogram your brain into thinking and feeling how you want to be, okay? So think and feel how you want to be. Again, if you've experienced those emotions once of how it would feel if everything that you wanted landed into your lap, and you know how to make those emotions stir up within you and create a storm inside of yourself of those positive elevated emotions, that's what you want to feel when you're meditating. And again, when you're meditating, you want to visualize and mentally rehearse how you want to be, how you want your life to be, and how you're going to be from now on in, morning, afternoon, and night, how you're going to behave. Okay, how you're going to be. And if you find your mind drifting to other things, then by all means, that's something that happens, okay? It's okay to, that's the whole point of meditation anyway. The whole point of meditation is a practice of you losing your mind, basically, and losing track of what you're thinking about. And you think about dinner, you think about your ex, you think about your job, you think about money, and then you're like, oops, I just realized I'm thinking about that. Let's get back into the present moment. Okay, and you that's the whole point of meditation. You're training your mind to become more quiet, and you catch yourself when it drifts, and then you come back to the present moment. That's the loop. That's the whole meditative process. Okay, and you're doing things right. If your mind does drift and you bring it back, that's the whole. You're doing it right. You're just doing it right. Okay, so think about when you're having that meditation. Think about how you want to be. Think about how you want to feel. Think about how you want to change your life. Think about the future that you have for yourself, that you see yourself doing. Okay. And things will start to change. And then you've entered into the subconscious, and you will then be able to break those old behaviors and those old habits. You see? Okay? So those old habits that keep you going back to the old state. Okay? Because you want to live in this new state. You want to feel like the wish is fulfilled. You want to feel like the wish has been fulfilled all the time. Okay? And you want to feel that consistently. So when you start visualizing yourself how you want to be, and you start practicing that, and you do it on a daily basis, then you will stop being that old you and start becoming the new you. So another thing that can also help with this as well is becoming familiar with your old self. So becoming familiar with your old self. This is another thing that you want to practice, okay? So you want to know and get really intimate, actually, with who you are right now and who you don't want to be anymore. So this could be someone who has feelings of and thoughts of lack. So you want to think of how you want to think about what you've been thinking about. You want to think about how you've been behaving. You want to think about how you've been showing up and how you've been feeling on a consistent basis. You want to get really intimate and know those emotions. So when you start feeling those emotions, when those old emotions crop up, you know that you're aware of it. And because you're aware of it, you can change it. You're like, oh my God, I'm slipping back into my old self. I need to change. I need to do something else. I need to snap myself out of this. Okay, so it's all about awareness. So you may be feeling those feelings of lack. You may be feeling those feelings of frustration or sadness. Okay, whatever it may be, it just might be just a general negativity. I mean, if you're struggling with sadness and low mood, I'm just a coach here online. I can't help you with that. You need to go and speak to a medical professional if you feel like you are really struggling with your mental health. And in fact, if you're not even sure if you're struggling with your mental health, please go and speak to a medical professional about this. Stuff like that, what I teach on this channel and stuff that anyone else teaches, you should be doing alongside with medical help and professional help. Okay, it should be something that you're doing alongside with other therapies and other things that are useful. Okay, because what I would say about those kinds of things, the science that's around today and the medicine that is around today, the therapies that are around today, all of these things have been manifested. All of these things are spiritual because they've been created by us human beings. Okay, they've been created by us, and that has come from somewhere. We've come from somewhere. We've come from that energy field, wherever you believe in God or whatever your religion is. We've been created by a divine intelligence, let's say, and because we've been created by a divine intelligence, everything we create has also been created by that same divine intelligence. So things like medicine and those advancements in science have also came from that same field because they've come through us and we've come through that field, you see. Okay, so never knock traditional medicines and traditional science. Okay, you got to do these things alongside with things that like what I teach or what other people may teach here online. Okay, so don't just rely on someone like me. Okay, because I may not be. I definitely do not hold all the answers. Okay, I can only show you what's helped me. It's like, for example, like the saying, I'm an expert in my own experience. Okay, but everyone's experiences are very, very unique. And everyone is a very individual and different person. And what works for one person, what works for me, may not work for you. So whenever you listen to me or anyone else here online, always take it with a pinch of salt. Okay? Because what I'm saying may not work for you. It could be the next video that works for you. Or it could be going to a medical professional and having a sort of form of counseling that may help you. Okay? So that's what I would say about that, especially if you're experiencing low mood. Okay? So what we're trying to do here then is we're trying to feel more elevated emotions and more better feelings on a consistent basis, and going into your subconscious mind and trying to rewire things in there and reprogram yourself to feel that elevated emotion, to feel that emotion as if the wish has been fulfilled, is the best way that I've personally seen that you can start manifesting things in your own life. And these are things that I've done, sometimes subconsciously without even knowing, that has helped me manifest different things. So, for example, I've talked about this before on this channel. So there was a time in my life a couple of years ago where I really wanted to get pregnant and where I wanted a settlement sorted. And I started, when it comes down to it, I started to do one thing differently. Okay, and this was it. Because I used loads of different processes, and if you've watched any of my other videos, then you've seen and you've heard those other processes that I've done. But this, in a nutshell, was what I was doing during that time to manifest both of those things. I was living differently. I was being and becoming someone else. and I was living from a new elevated emotion, and I was doing all sorts of things to change my emotions, like meditation, like visualization, like listening to positive music that will pump me up and make me feel really good and make me feel empowered. Okay, that's a really cool emotion to feel. Empowered. Okay, because I think a lot of people think that they're powerless and that outside circumstances are just too strong and they don't have the power to change their lives. But I guarantee that you have the power to change your life. You can change your life. You're not stuck. Okay, if you've got that feeling of things are just never going to change, I guarantee it will if you start living differently, if you start elevating your emotions, pumping yourself up, getting yourself to feel really good and great, and you feel that consistently on a consistent basis. I promise you, your life will begin to change because you feel happier, and you're now living as if the wish has been fulfilled. You start acting and behaving differently, and therefore you start getting better results. You get different results by living differently, by doing different things. It's like that quote by, I think it's Aristotle, and he says something along the lines of, I'm sorry if it's a misquote and that's not the right person, but he said something like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Okay? So if you want different results, you have to live differently. You have to become someone different. You have to feel different emotions. You can't be living by the same old emotions that you've experienced in the past. And when you begin to live differently and feel differently, things change. Your life changes. Things become different. And if you're living from a more positive emotion, then that difference is going to be great. Okay, you're going to have a great life, and your life is going to become better because you're living from a better place. You're seeing life in a better way. You're feeling better. So thank you so much for watching. If you like coaching with me, then you can go to www.christineloveridge.com. If you don't want to do that, then you can just go ahead and watch the next video and coach yourself. So thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.